Notorious, so notorious.
It's Friday night, and the posse's back. Deep dives, local vibes, and headlines that matter, or totally don't. So crack a beer, crank it up. This is the NFNP. All right, just like that, we are live. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get it together this week. You know, I've got a busy week, got some travel in the schedule, but hey, we did it. Success. And Duds, we got the whole gang back. Duds, I don't know if we ever really got the answer as to what happened last week. I know you said it was
you don't
the
need
kids.
The details.
All right.
Damn kids.
No details.
It's not going to work out. Sometimes it just doesn't work.
That's right. Hey, I thought Nilla and I thought we put out a pretty good episode. I'm assuming you had the opportunity to listen.
Well, yeah, sure. I gave it a listen.
Man,
no, I
unbelievable.
didn't.
We can't even get our own people to listen.
He watched a 3.5-hour special on something he's trying to get us to watch.
It's in the rotation. I'll listen to it, but it's just I'm not listening to it right now. I'll probably listen to it.
He's a week
see
late.
How it is. Well, we had a really good episode, I think, all about assassination attempts on presidents throughout the history of the country, with some really good facts in there. Some good speculation, some what if scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just posted the blog, so go give that a read too. It gives you the gist of everything.
Will do.
Some conspiracy theories.
Yeah, there's some conspiracy theories in there a little bit. JFK
everywhere.
and all of that everywhere, right? So, but I have to say, we held down the fort, but it's good to have you back.
So, what did you have like a final conclusion on the most latest assassination attempt? There's been like two here.
I mean, the conclusion,
recently, right?
Say what?
Hasn't there been two like here very recently?
I don't know if the one was even fully.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. So with Trump specifically, we had Butler, Pennsylvania, like confirmed. I mean, he was shot. Then his golf course, which he didn't, the shooter didn't actually get to the shot, but
he wasn't even there, was he?
Trump, I think, was there, wasn't he? I think he was
on
a different hole
away.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was pretty close. And then, of course, this one. So if all of these really get classified as, as assassination attempts, Trump will have the most of any sitting president, I think, outside of foiled plots. And, we kind of talked about that, last week. If plots are getting foiled, I guess that's the only word, weeks in advance, we weren't necessarily counting those. We were counting pretty much the direct attempts.
Right.
It was pretty interesting. Gerald Ford, he had attempts against his life twice in 17 days is what it was. Twice in 17 days, both crazy. By women.
Yeah.
So that was a crazy one. Yeah.
Jackson, the only women actually.
The only women. Yep. Jackson was the first one. And the pistols, the guy had two pistols, and they both misfired. 1 in 125,000 chance that happens.
Isn't that crazy?
And then Jackson beat his attacker with a cane. There's some interesting stuff. So I definitely encourage you to go give it a listen. Go check out the blog. It was a good episode. And I think we got a good one today too. If we want to get right into it.
Yeah, what's going on here?
All right. Well, so I threw out the poll on what we should talk about, and Nilla, you didn't actually vote in it, so I went with Duds. But I was prepping two different topics, and maybe we'll save the next topic for the next episode. The topic that we're not doing is AI exponential growth and human gene hacking, more or less. And there's this article from this AI super genius that came out the other day, and he thinks within the next 10 years, human lifespan will double.
Wow.
So
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And there's some really good information on that. So that's just a little teaser. Maybe we'll hit that up on another episode. But I really like the article, and there's some interesting facts. But this one is certainly topical for a couple of reasons. One, a couple of weeks ago, we hinted at this on the pod, Duds, and then there's been a lot in the news. And the topic, of course, I'm talking about is California, the mayoral race in LA, Spencer Pratt. So I got a whole slew of information about why personally I think California sucks. And how it compares to the beautiful state of Missouri.
Of course.
So I got some interesting facts there. I've got some information on Spencer Pratt. When we talked about him a couple weeks ago being on Joe Rogan, since then he's gone like super viral.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So he got the endorsement for Joe Rogan. He talked about all of that stuff on the episode, some of which I'll recap. But then he put out a couple of viral videos. He's getting
you
picked
were
up
actually
by
the first person I heard about him from.
Look at
You're
that
like-
NFNP
you're like, "Hey,
pod.
You should
Again
go listen to that
on the
Spencer Pratt, Joe Rogan. I was like, oh,
Yes.
maybe I will do that. And I did that. And like you said, it just kind of exploded all over social media.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You get like an inside source, some breaking news.
Yeah,
or
what's
what?
that all about?
I'm just in tune with the American people.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah,
Well, it actually
and,
kind of shows you how viral going from Joe Rogan. I think that's where it
sure.
went,
Well,
right?
Well,
once he had
definitely a big opportunity.
Yeah, once he got on that show, I mean, it just kind of spread like wildfire. Then the clip
maybe we can get on there.
That would be huge, right? We're definitely similar demographic.
I went and followed him on
Yeah.
X. I mean, I think what he's doing is great. I hope he does win.
Yeah, I mean, I
They
certainly
need
do
a lot
too.
of help out there.
I think he is running as a Republican.
I don't think so. I don't think they have political parties in the mayoral.
Maybe not.
Is what he said.
Yeah.
He said they
All right.
don't.
Well,
They
I
don't
know
claim a political party on there.
Okay, yeah. The way they do it, I know it's just the top 2 vote getters move on to the next round. So it doesn't actually matter if you're Republican, Democrat, or it's just whoever gets the top 2 votes moves on to the next round, and then that's when so
You could say it doesn't matter, but I feel like still people are going to know his background.
yeah. And I don't know like that his background is necessarily Republican, right? I just think like all of a sudden you have more and more people that are identifying Republican or switching teams because of how bad the other team has been.
I don't even know
over
if
the
they're
last
really
couple
going
years.
like if he's a Republican or if they're going to the Republican side. I think he's kind of running on the platform of I'm going to go get rid of all the fraud. Like I see all the fraud. I see what they're wasting money on.
He's
I
experienced
see
it
all the
firsthand.
scammers. Yeah, he's experienced it. It affects everybody, and it's huge.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of money that taxpayers and regular, honest, working Americans are losing that money to these criminals, and he wants to end that. And I mean, if you can't get behind that, I don't know what you can get
Well, yeah.
behind. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Well,
everybody,
and he
should
seems
care what what
Right.
political party you're in.
he seems genuine about it too.
Sure.
Like he especially on Joe Rogan, he came across like he knows his stuff. He's researched this. He's not just throwing stuff out of nowhere and hope that it sticks. Like he's putting his time, his money, into this. So I think he's serious about it. And I think at first when he announced his candidacy, people were like, oh, the reality star, anybody can, but he's taken his game up a level, up a notch. And
I like it how
showing
it's
that
kind of like
he's
you
serious.
took my house from me. What else I got to take from me?
Yeah.
They tried to get
Yeah.
it so he
Well-
couldn't even run because his house burned down. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, they tried
Right.
to say that he wasn't an actual resident or
Right.
something like that.
You have no
I don't
house
know.
here. Yeah, it's because
Yeah.
it burned down.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
think
you.
he's-
Well,
I think he's living on the property though. I think he's got like an RV.
so he had a viral video that just went out where he went to his opponent's houses, which are these, multi-million-dollar houses, and then he went to the streets of LA that are just filled with homeless, and he calls them, what does he call them, zombies,
Yeah.
and then drug addicts. And then he goes to his house. He's like, this is where I'm living because my house burnt down and it was a trailer.
Mhm.
It was what are those silver ones?
Streamline or
Streamliner or
Something like
something.
that.
Yeah.
Or
It
airline
was one of
or
those just sitting
Airstream.
on like some cinder blocks, Airstream. Yeah. And then he had another viral video where he actually did a tour of his house. I think that was less of a commercial and more just
Right.
social media, but of course it's just, you're just walking down one hallway basically, so it was interesting, and that's part of his deal now. He's a social media guy. He's got a leg up in the in that sense compared to his opponents.
Let's hear
I
about him.
looked it up. It says that he is a registered Republican, but he's running as independent, it says.
Okay, there you go. So registered Republican, interesting. Running as an independent. All right, well, let's get into it. I actually have an intro today that'll lead us right into it. So California is one of the richest places on earth, a $4 trillion economy, home to Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and innovation that powers the world. And somehow it's also one of the most visibly broken. Now you've got Spencer Pratt. You heard that. Spencer Pratt from the Hills running for LA mayor. And this is insane. After losing his home and his parents' home in the Palisades Fire, today we're breaking it down. The fires, the money, the chaos, and why smaller, steadier states like Missouri often are more functional. How was that?
And murder. No, just kidding.
It sounds like that, right? Yeah. All right. So Spencer Pratt, we already kind of talked about, he lost his home, he lost his parents' home in that Palisades fire. He started running for mayor as an outsider, and he's really framing the fire as complete government failure. And he goes into that on Rogan and beyond just which I'll get into this, the fire aspect of it, but incompetence and wasting money and taxpayer dollars. And he says this was not climate change, which is what they tried to label it as when the fire went down. He was like, this is predictable. There's a fire season, but the reservoirs were empty. And I know that's something that Trump really hit on. He said that they don't do any brush clearing or fire breaks, and that he basically said that they've never done this. He's like, there's 30 years of dead brush up there that's just waiting to ignite. And so they're not taking the money that they have and investing it in things like that. So they knew this was going to happen. And he may have stopped just short of saying it was a conspiracy that they wanted all those houses to burn down so that they could have a real estate swap, if you will.
Well, you heard too, all the insurance companies dropped everybody in that area, right before
which
that
also
fire.
seems like a scam, right?
It almost seems like it should be illegal. I shouldn't even be able to do that.
I mean, that's pretty
almost
crazy.
like they knew it was coming.
I don't know what the answer to that is. What if you can't get insurance in a certain place?
I don't understand how that works either. Eventually, maybe the government's going to have to start subsidizing these insurance. They're going to have to get in the insurance business.
You have to be able to get it. It's just going to, maybe it's going to cost so much that people can afford it or something possibly too.
Yeah, then what do? Everybody's just going to be at the mercy of, you just won't have homeowners insurance. The problem is it's required if you have a mortgage.
Right.
But if you have a mortgage and you can't get insurance,
right?
Then what happens?
Then you can't buy the house. Then I guess in the first place.
Typically,
but what if you already bought the house, you have the mortgage, and then they take the insurance away?
Right. A lot of the times what they do is the mortgage company goes out and finds insurance and bills you for it. And usually it's not as cheap.
Of course. Right.
Because they're not going to want you to have a mortgage out there without insurance. So I don't know how that all worked out.
Right. You wouldn't think so.
Mm.
So, all right. So after Joe Rogan and after some of these viral videos, Pratt has raised over $500,000 just recently, just in the last couple of weeks. So that surpassed the incumbent Karen Bass and how much she has raised. So we already talked about his viral attacks. And right now they have him at roughly polling as in second place in a tight race with a lot of people still undecided. So he's definitely in this thing. Now let's just keep going. Paradise Fire.
Do you have any
so what really happened?
Do you have how his issues that what he stands on, certain issues, what's his platform? Do you know?
Well, I have some information here about NGOs and where this fire money went, and his big thing is the drugs and the homeless and basically where they're putting the money in California. What are they doing with all the money? I have some
Stopping the
facts on
corruption.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's more or less, I think, what his platform is that he is for the everyday mother, and he's kind of come out and said that, mom with her kids. He doesn't think these families should have to be driving downtown LA with their kids having to be shielded from the window because they're going to see homeless people shooting up and walking around naked and do it. So that was his big pitch, certainly on Rogan. And one of the things, so going back to the fire, well, I got two things on the fire itself. One, did you hear, I think this may have broke just today or whatever, the guy that set the fire, because if you remember, this was more or less, this was arson.
Mm-hmm.
He was inspired by Luigi Mangione. You know that name?
Yeah, that shot the insurance CEO.
Correct. The guy that shot the insurance CEO. So he was inspired by his actions. And
except for instead of that, he was going to just start a fire.
Yeah, because he was also a, what do you call it, Nilla, when you're really into fires?
Well, pyro.
A pyro. Yeah, he was a pyro. So he thought how, maybe the other Luigi was a gun guy or whatever, This guy was a pyro, so he was like, all right, I'm going to stick it to the man, I'm going to stick it to the people, and I'm going to burn everything down.
It looks like his platform is public safety, also advocating for increased funding for the LAPD to improve recruitment and retention, rejecting defund strategies, anti-corruption audit, promise to launch forensic performance audits on city programs, cutting those that do not show measurable results, homelessness, like we talked about. I think that's the main three. All
right. Well, listen to this. So Pratt and critics of the fire, which destroyed all of these wealthy homes, he says that this wasn't unprecedented. He said the winds peaked around 40 miles per hour. So he said, like, this is not a once in a lifetime, like a hurricane force winds, wasn't global warming. He said, again, it's failed preparation. They knew the risks. Let's see. And then the blame passed to weather and NGOs instead of actual accountability from the government. So he said this isn't about just one fire. It's about whether the people in charge did their basic job, clearing the brush, maintaining reservoirs, enforcing codes, and then they just made excuses. So then after the fact, and he talks about this on Rogan too, all of that money, fire aid raised over $100 million. But his claim is that these $100 million was distributed to 200 different NGOs, and that basically all that money went to admin and overhead, and so nobody actually saw any relief funds.
Well, yeah.
Very little went to any actual victims, and that was also per investigations and whistleblowers. So it's not that like those claims are just made up from Pratt.
Hey, I'm going to drop off real quick, and I'll be right back on.
All right. Sounds good. I'll keep going. I wonder what that's all about. All right. So he, his one of his big things is all about the waste of money, right?
Yeah.
So I've got several different things here. I've got education, homelessness, drugs, cost of living, all kinds of stuff. So starting with education, California spends among the highest per pupil, somewhere between $20,000 and $27,000 per pupil on education, yet they rank in the mid to lower tier nationally in grades K through 12. So among fourth grade reading, as an example, they rank 37th in the country, even though they have one of the highest spendings per pupil. Missouri, we spend way less. I don't have the exact number here, but we typically are above California in education, even though we spend way less money.
Right. Is that based on cost of living at all, or does that amount per year? What is that per?
Yeah, I think it's $20,000 to $27,000 per pupil per year.
Okay.
And of course, the more people make, the more property taxes, the more money you have for schools. Now, of course, everything costs more there. So,
Right. So
you
it
know,
evens out, kind of.
mhm.
All right.
But they're spending a lot of money on education and it ain't really paying off.
Right. It's not showing.
Yeah. All right. Then, one of Pratt's big things was homelessness, and this is pretty crazy. So California has upwards or more, it's probably more than this, of 181,000 people experiencing homelessness. And that makes up somewhere between 28 and 30% of the entire U.S. homeless population. So we can basically say like 1/3 of all homeless people are living in California. So the question is why? I know some people say that they gravitate there because of the weather.
Well, that's what I was going to say, probably because I've heard actually that Hawaii has actually a lot of homelessness, and I think that's partially why too.
Well,
Because
you
they
have to
can
be able to
stay
get to Hawaii,
outside.
I guess. But
Sure, but you can stay outside in a tent all year round almost to some
Yeah.
degree, right?
right. But the cost
don't
of
know.
living's really high in Hawaii too,
There
much
too.
like California.
Yeah, true.
So LA County alone has 68,000 plus homeless people. So 1/3 of all the homeless people living in California are in LA County.
Right. That's a lot too.
So that's a lot, right?
Maybe they're there.
California,
Maybe they're there because they get too much money from people handouts on the streets, driving by.
that's kind of maybe what I was hinting at, that they go there because they're going to get more
Right.
there than they
Yeah.
would, say, in
Here.
Missouri. And
Yeah.
Judge, to catch up, we're talking about the money and the homeless issue now in California. So just as a quick recap for you, California accounts for 30% of the homeless population in the country.
Wow.
Yes.
California or LA?
California.
California. Okay.
LA has 1/3 of California's entire homeless population lives in
Damn.
LA,
Wow.
and they spend $24 billion between the years of 2019 and 2024 on homelessness, yet the numbers rose by 30,000 in that same period.
Yeah. So $24 billion. What do you think that
$24
money?
billion.
What do you think that money actually went to?
And I think that's Pratt's argument, to an extent. Is,
Yeah. If it's not
they
decreasing, then it's not working.
Yeah. And and he brings up the scenario where they're spending $250,000 per bed on these homeless people. He's like, well, $250,000 in Missouri, that buys you a pretty good starter home, more than a starter home.
Right.
So he was like, we'd be better off just giving these people money. And the other point that he makes, which I think it's probably pretty accurate, is that the majority of these homeless people are not people that are just down on their luck, lost their job and, have some medical bills, got behind, got evicted from their apartment. It's not those people. These are willing homeless people. They're drug addicts. They're people that have no desire to get back on their feet and find a house. And, so you're spending all of this money to house these people and the problem's getting worse. So that $24 billion, maybe that could have gone to something else.
Yeah, I think they said that like 90% of them are like these zombie fentanyl users too.
That's his argument.
They're
maybe
using
they can
those
use that
in another scam. That's another rehab scam, I'm sure, that they're charging people for rehab and, these guys aren't actually doing it. And,
Can they use
they're
that
helping
drug that Rogan was talking about to help people get off of certain addicted drugs?
Well, I mean, in theory, because, Trump is fast tracking that, I guess, right, for FDA approval, but you still got to have people got to be willing to do it, if you want to be addicted to fentanyl.
They're just going to douse the water in LA and give it to all the fentanyl users. And...
Right. All right. Well, Missouri, in comparison, we have about 8,000 total homeless people compared to California's 181,000. We have 8,000.
Can you believe that that's going on, though? The drug use that's just out in the open.
Sure. And I think that's
over,
what's... Yes.
What can you do about that? Like, you can't do anything?
I mean, eventually, so and I have this on the next thing, drug overdose deaths in California were somewhere between 10,000 and 11,400 annually. So eventually, I guess maybe if you have 10,000, eventually they'll just
don't know.
all
No, because I
die.
think new people turn into drug
more,
addicts every
yeah.
day, you know?
Yes,
Sure,
more
yeah.
than that rate, probably. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Fentanyl is the primary cause of
Yeah.
overdose deaths in
Well,
California.
and you were talking about why there also, probably because the fentanyl comes from Mexico, I would assume primarily, and it's closest to
I think it's
California
actually
than
China.
here.
Isn't it China?
Well,
where it
but
all
it's
comes
getting
from?
funneled through Mexico.
Maybe the
So,
two, possibly.
yes, China is the one manufacturing the fentanyl and then sending it places, and then it's getting to Mexico, and then the drug mules are getting it across the border into the U.S. So,
When we
at least
say
that's the
China,
claim.
like, what do we mean? Like, is that the Chinese government or is that drug
You,
cartels in
you know,
China? What
I
is it?
mean,
I
They
I
just say it
don't
comes from
know.
China. Like,
Right. I
well,
don't
I don't
know.
know if they know the
either.
exact source specifically, or else they would stop it. Don't you think?
It's probably the
Well,
CIA, so they're probably not going to stop it.
Well, right.
maybe.
Who knows,
maybe.
man?
All
I
right.
mean,
For California's population, this is where it gets interesting when we talk about homeless. California's population is 6.3 times Missouri's. So they have 39 million people versus our 6.2 million. But their homeless count is 23 to 25 times higher. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy, I think. And then when we get back to overdose deaths, Missouri, we have about a little less than 1,500 overdose deaths in 2024, which is actually down 26% from 2023. And
26%
it
is a
is
big-
tracking lower for 2025. So we're actually, improving.
declining, yeah.
Yes, California is not. So here we go.
Well, I can't
so here
imagine
we go.
you're ever going to have the drug use and crime go down if you're not, like, hard on crime.
Well, and that seems
You
to
know
be
what I
the
mean?
obvious point,
Yeah.
right? And I know that's the point for a lot of Republicans when it comes to safety, when, these liberal prosecutors are just letting people off. And same with liberal judges. They're letting all these not only drug addicts, but violent criminals, off the hook. And they're just like, oh, time served or,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take
whatever.
a, brain surgeon or a rocket scientist to realize that if you let criminals go after they break the law, they're going to go do it again.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Yes.
They used to, I mean, the whole point of holding them in jail was that they would not break the law again, until they got punished or,
Yeah, and what happened to the 3 strikes rule? That's the way it used to be. Like, okay, one time,
Yeah.
it depends on the crime, obviously.
Right.
But now it's like 6, 8, 9, 12 times, and they're still out of the street. And you're like, what's
and
going on?
what is it, like the no cost bail or something like that? Or
Yeah,
no
no
cash,
cash bail.
no cash bail,
Yeah.
so you don't have to pay anything?
No, you just get right out. Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it
know.
makes
Well,
sense if it's on purpose to,
Well,
increase crime, which has to be
Right.
what it is, right? I mean,
right, which is what they're doing. Yes.
there's no other reason you would let criminals right out of jail other than to increase crime because you just put a criminal back on the street.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
slap on
Yep.
the wrist. Oh,
And
what
and
do you
again,
think?
that's kind of what's happening with the drug addicts in California. They're not putting them into programs. If they have mental issues, they're not going. They're just letting them roam the street.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything else. They're just
No.
saying like, oh well, we'll help you guys with your tent city, and we'll have
Yeah, no.
drop boxes with the Narcan and all of this
yeah.
stuff. Like, we'll make it easier on you. So it. Why would they try and get off the streets? Why would they try and get clean when everything's right there?
Sure.
If they OD, somebody will just Narcan them.
Yeah.
And I
You're paid
think
for that. Yeah.
Spencer Pratt said that, open drug use in the public is illegal. So if you just enforce the law,
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
start putting
It's
people in
that
jail.
simple.
And then
Sure.
he said a bunch
exactly.
of them will
But
probably leave.
then the jails would be overcrowded with
well,
drug addicts.
until the criminals
and-
leave, until they
Yeah.
move away, because like, hey, people are getting arrested. People are going to start moving. They're not going to want to get arrested.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to crime, this one is a little bit more interesting. California's violent crime rate is 486 per 100,000 population. Missouri's is 462, so we're not much less. California struggles with a lot of property theft, smash and grabs, street disorder, and Missouri has a more concentrated violent hotspots with higher murder rates in certain urban pockets. Certainly,
Where do
we
you
know
think
what those
those
are
are?
in St. Louis, but those exist in Kansas City as well. But
I was gonna say, I mean, sure, there too, but really, besides Kansas City and here, where else though? I mean, like, what other big cities?
I mean, I'm sure there's spots in Springfield or Columbia, but not to the extent of St.
Yeah.
Louis and Kansas City. I
Right,
mean,
right.
every city has a
Some,
pocket
sure.
somewhere,
Well, yeah.
right? Where there's drug activity and gangs or something.
And why is that? Like, why does it have to be that way? Why can't
They
the
have to go
entire
somewhere.
city be safe? You know, why can't the
People-
law be enforced throughout the whole city?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and it's twofold. I mean, you got to have the police force, you got to enforce the law, and then, like, at some point, the people have to be accountable.
Mhm.
Like, stop being criminals,
True.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So whether it's your parents that raised you wrong, or
Right.
you know, or somebody failed you along the way, you know, the school system, or I mean, something. You know, we didn't turn out to be criminals.
Well, I think it is like you said. Like if they were raised there, it's hard to get out. I think
Sure. Yeah.
I think it has a
I
lot
don't
to
know.
do with, like, you know, the family unit too.
Yes,
Yeah, for
father
sure.
figure.
Yeah, that's probably what has destroyed a lot of, you know,
Mhm.
inner city, unfortunately, black neighborhoods is that exact thing.
Yeah.
And it was
Sure.
all pushed by, you know, Democrat policies or these
Well,
far left political
welfare
policies. Yeah.
programs and things like
Socialist.
that. Absolutely.
You know, and encouraging people not to have a family. I mean, that's just, what is that going to do? It's not going to help your community to not have
Right.
families, you know.
Sure. Yep. All right. When we get to the local and the loose segment, I have a little bit back on that, these pockets of crime. So let's come back to that. All right. Cost of living in California. This is pretty crazy, right? So some of it's obvious. Gas prices, which is a hot topic right now. They're usually, now outside of maybe these couple of weeks, I don't have the data on that, but they're usually between $5.89 and $6.11 a gallon, which is the highest in the United States, versus Missouri, which is usually in the $3.09 to $3.50 range. But California drivers are paying roughly 60-80% more at the pump.
I saw
California-
$4.52 today.
Yeah, that's
52.
high.
Wow.
$4.39 is kind
It's
of
over in
the
Crestwood.
primary price that I'm seeing, $4.39, which is high.
Crazy.
You know, and I said that thing to Bobcat the other day, you know, what gas prices peaked under Obama in 2011. And then when you adjust it for inflation, it would actually be equivalent to paying like
$5.80
$5.60,
something?
$5.80, something
Yeah.
like that a gallon.
Yeah.
So even though these numbers are certainly high
Right.
and we're not used to it, you're not feeling the pain quite as much as we did in 2011. And I remember in 2011.
Well, how long
you
did that
know.
go on for? You know,
Yeah,
then.
well,
I mean, I don't-
a long
Yeah.
time, I felt
Okay.
like. Yeah, a long time. Like, we'll see how long this one goes on
Well,
for,
right.
but, you know.
Probably the whole time that we're over in Iran. I'm just going to guess.
Well, sure. We'll see how much longer that goes. When it comes to taxes, of course, California, you know, has some of the highest taxes in the country. Their top income tax is 13.3%, with a state local burden of $10,300 capita. And Missouri has roughly half that burden. So we're much more competitive. California, and then we got housing affordability. California's median home price, $775 to $905.
Dang.
Yeah, so somewhere in that range. Missouri, $263 to $295. I mean, that is a drastic difference. California homes cost 2.7 to 3.5 times more. Price to income ratio, California makes 7 to 8 times more on the median income it takes 7 to 8 times more of your median income to buy a house, I guess, versus Missouri's 3 to 4 times. So you're paying double for gas prices, you're sitting in traffic, you're stepping over literal shit, and you still can't afford a starter home despite the fact that you're getting paid more.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know about the California dreamin'.
Yeah. Wasn't that why they want to raise the minimum wage, or who is that, to $25 an
Well,
hour or something like that?
everybody wants to raise the minimum wage.
That's the answer.
Well, not me. I mean, because if they raise the minimum wage, then I need $10 more an hour at least.
Of course,
I mean,
yes.
you know,
Everybody
Well,
needs a raise.
It would just lead to more inflation,
right?
And the people that would get hurt or would be middle America, because they're not gonna play catch up as much, right? It takes longer for people in the middle class to get those raises.
I just want to get paid in
promotions.
Bitcoin. You don't even have to give me a raise. Just start paying me in Bitcoin.
Less money, just in Bitcoin. It's fine. He doesn't care.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, who was talking about that though? The minimum wage. I mean, it wasn't like Missouri. It was probably New York or California or.
Oh, I think every Democratic state wants to raise the minimum wage probably at some point to $25 per hour.
Well, eventually. I mean, yeah, maybe in like 20 years.
So do they not learn anything? I mean, haven't you been into a McDonald's or another fast food restaurant that they have like automated stations for taking orders now?
Yeah, exactly. You hardly even have to interact with a person, so they'll just get rid of those jobs.
If the labor cost goes up too much, then the technology will just take over the jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. It's already happening.
You can do that, you know?
And once they come out with the Tesla robot, they're going to be flipping burgers too. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my Tesla robot working at McDonald's, earning me money.
You just need to get a bunch of robo taxis or whatever, Tesla taxis.
Mm-hmm.
Put in your investment and then just let them go drive, and you just collect
and then the
money.
robot will the robot fix the car too?
Yep.
Yeah, robots fix it. You don't have to do anything.
Nothing. Yep.
Yeah, why wouldn't you invest in a bunch of robo tax?
It's a good business decision.
Or Bitcoin.
You know what's really hard to wrap your mind around is like how Elon Musk says that he thinks everybody's going to have what did he call it? Not universal basic income, but the universal high income. Did you ever say that?
You know, right. Yeah. Yeah. That basically will be a utopian society.
Yeah. How do you think that works?
I don't know.
I mean, can you
like you might as well just get rid of money at that point. Just
maybe it goes away, right? Who knows?
Right.
I don't know. It'd just be interesting to like.
I don't see it.
See what he would think that actually how you visualize that. Because it's hard to wrap your mind around everybody being wealthy. How does that? That'd be like
it's crazy to think about, because not everybody can have the best house, not everybody can drive the fanciest cars, not everybody can have a $300 million yacht.
Well, it depends on how you use it too, right? Or save it, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
I guess.
Yeah.
Or so you're saying that the homeless guy is going to have the same exact income?
Maybe, or maybe you have to have some kind of job. Maybe you got to be contributing to society in some way.
See, and how does that work? Because I mean, if you give just everybody unlimited access to anything they want, money or otherwise, some people would go overboard, maybe kill themselves on drugs, you know, just OD. And so you can't just give anybody all the money, you know, and send them turn loose.
No. You know what, though? And maybe we'll preview this for the next episode. Maybe it's not for us to figure out. Maybe it's for AI to figure out how that works.
Doesn't AI just learn from us, though?
That's how it starts, but that's not how it's going to end. It's going to start learning from itself.
Is that a good thing?
And it probably...
In
half the scenarios, it's a good thing. In half the scenarios, it's a bad thing. I don't know.
We learned from ourselves in the past how many hundreds of years? I mean, that's not gotten better.
You're getting right into my next episode topic. I mean, that's spot on. No,
man,
nice preview, but we got to get back on
track. Come on,
back on track here. And so I got a couple more things to wrap up this California thing. So big picture, right? So the GDP of California is astounding. It's $4 trillion. And it's the world's 4th or 5th largest if it were a country.
Wow.
Which, you know, again, I mean, that's crazy, right? GDP per capita is roughly 98,700. Their unemployment rate is somewhere between 5.3 and 5.4. You compare that to Missouri. we have around a $400 billion GDP versus their $4 trillion.
So it's a tenth.
Right. Yeah, basically. Per capita, we're at 69,300. So not as far off there, but of course we have less people. Our unemployment, though, is better, 3.9%. And the poverty rate is pretty similar. We're at 12.7% versus California's 12.3%. But we have a far lower cost of living, which means that even if you're in poverty, you still have more money in the state of Missouri than you would in California.
What is that, like a federal poverty line?
Yeah, which I forget exactly what it is. It's like
Here, you mean?
it's like $26,000 or less for a family of 4 or something like that. I don't know, maybe it's like 30. It changes, of course, based on inflation and other factors.
Mhm.
So it's like that's like a federal poverty line. So of course, yes, the numbers are about the same, but your money is going to go further in Missouri.
I wonder how some of those compare those numbers to New York because of how much debt they're in now.
Sure, and we saw Mamdani had to go out and basically beg the state of New York and more or less the federal government for a bunch of money, which doesn't compute with me.
Has he gotten any money from that? I know
Not to my knowledge. I mean, he's already getting a bunch of money from the federal government, and I'm sure the state as well. Like, they already funnel money into New York City, but he's basically saying they need more.
Need to rob the rainy day fund.
Yeah, I don't know. Trump doesn't want to give him any more money, but it was just a whole big story today. I'm not up on it about enforcing ICE laws and stuff like that, and how they're not. Yeah, I was like, if you're not going to follow the rules of the U.S. government, the U.S. government isn't going to give you money.
Well, I don't understand why he needs more money. Like, you have a budget, right? You're a city. You run your city off of a city budget.
But he's saying it's because of the past and it was messed up. Well,
and that's what's interesting. So, okay, well, your job is to come in and fix it. That's what the mayor does.
Yeah,
I understand that it might be
throwing money
a hard job to do.
For money.
Right, exactly. And of course, he wants to spend more money.
Right.
So, and that's what every good politician does.
Yeah, spend money to make money.
Politician, right? Exactly. He wants the free buses and better housing, free housing, all kinds of stuff.
Free housing,
keep the scam going.
I don't understand this free stuff. I didn't think that anything was free pretty much anymore, but how come all this stuff is free,
It's not free for Americans.
It's not free for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you mean for working?
Yes, for working Americans,
yes.
it is not.
Right.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody sees that.
Yes. Well, people are just going to start leaving. And this is true for California, and they're definitely talking about that with New York too. People just moving to the Carolinas and Florida and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Well, California led the nation in outbound domestic migration in 2025 for at least one consecutive year. They lost 229,000 people, which seems like a big number, but when you have as big of a population as they have. But more or less, people are voting with their feet, right? They're moving to Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Florida. And their primary reason for leaving is housing and taxes. Now, Missouri, on average, sees stability or a small gain. So we're not losing. We don't have any kind of mass exodus, certainly.
We'll maintain
the city.
We're pretty the healthy part of the curve.
Yes, exactly.
I think in St. Louis City, we might actually, though.
Yeah, St. Louis City, yeah. But and again, we've talked about this because people will leave the city and they'll just move to the county.
Well, right. And did you hear that recently, how they wanted to try to actually combine them?
Yeah, we had a whole episode on it.
Maybe I wasn't there.
Maybe you weren't there on that one. I can't remember.
Oh, I'm pretty sure
we talked about that.
Was I?
I think so.
We talked about that in one of our local on the loose segments. So
it's unfamiliar now.
Yeah. So
we need somebody. We need somebody like Spencer Pratt to come to St. Louis and clean St. Louis up too.
I agree
because there's no reason that
was going to be my next take.
That North St. Louis should be as dangerous as it is. Downtown.
Yeah.
People should be able to go downtown. It should be safe.
So that leads right into my local in the Lou story. It was another tough weekend downtown. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but especially for Cardinals fans that were heading downtown. But yeah, we had 2 separate incidents over the weekend that have led to ongoing security and safety issues in and around the Busch Stadium area. The first one are the car break-ins. Yeah, a bunch of car break-ins, multiple vehicles broken into Friday night during the Cardinals game.
You know what they're looking for?
Guns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're looking for, because they know they can't bring them in, so people are going to put guns in their cars.
Sure.
Yeah, that's not really smart in the first place either, though. But I mean,
no.
But that's what that's why they're doing it, though.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So the break-ins were at Shoto and 9th, a few blocks from the stadium. Fans returned to shattered glass on the sidewalks with estimated damages of roughly $400. Alderman Rasheen Aldridge is pushing for better enforcement of a 2024 city ordinance that requires surface parking lots to have 24/7 monitoring, security cameras, fencing, and electronic payments to cut down on cash robberies. But many of the parking lots have not complied with this ordinance, and it's not being enforced.
So how many reported stolen guns were there?
So it didn't say that, but they did say that they arrested 4 juveniles. One 14-year-old had a stolen handgun. So
not necessarily from right then, but
it does, it doesn't.
Right.
So they're all back out, though.
Well, probably because of what
they'll
we
be
said
breaking
earlier,
into cars next week.
Yeah, right. Especially if they're juveniles, they'll just let them right back out.
Yep. Here's your gun back.
It's so tough. And, I've always been a big proponent of downtown St. Louis. I love going downtown, going to the games, whether it's City, Cardinals, Blues, a nice restaurant. I like it, even if it is on the decline. Since COVID, I feel like, we've talked about this before. We've lost restaurants and cool bars and stuff like that. But this isn't going to help if people go downtown and they get their car broken into. I was talking to some friends, actually. They went to, was it Pig and Whiskey Festival maybe last year? Which I think was down at Four Hands, or maybe it was even something this year. I don't remember. And they said they were walking back to their car and they saw a whole string of cars that had their windows bashed in.
Yeah, people aren't going to want to do that.
No, right. Like, you're just not, like, if it costs you $400 every time you go downtown,
yeah,
stop going.
How many times would it take for that to happen to your car before you stopped going?
2.
Maybe, that's what I was going to say.
You'd let it go once.
Be random. Yeah, like, that's not going to happen again.
It happens again, you're like, all right, I'm not going back down there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if like 10 years go by, okay, but
if
it's 2 in a year or 2 years or something like that,
you're calling it quits at that point.
Yeah. And and that's at that dollar amount, where you can't really claim it on your insurance. You're just out. You're just out that money, The other incident was a fatal stabbing. Did you hear this? Just outside of Busch Stadium, it was a 27-year-old man was stabbed to death at around 3 a.m. on the south side of the stadium near the player parking lot.
I did hear about it, but I didn't. Was it over?
A dispute. I don't know. A 65-year-old man was taken into custody. Yeah. I know. What was it? A dispute. You don't say. All right. So, this is what it says. Police say it was a dispute between 2 third-party contractors working the game. So even though they weren't Cardinals employees or fans, they were working the game. The Cardinals came out and said this was an isolated altercation. Safety of our fans, guests, and employees remains our highest priority. Stadium security was not compromised. Now, what's crazy is that the game ended that day on 4:45 p.m., and yet this happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know what they're doing.
Wow.
Down there still working. I mean, maybe I guess there's cleanup crews and all kinds of stuff. 3 in the morning, though? But
I mean,
yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. It's pretty.
I think it would be empty at that point.
Police spokesperson Mitch McCoy noted that this is heartbreaking. Amid downtown revival efforts, the city has committed $250+ million in recent years and $300 million in infrastructure. This could have happened anywhere, but it happened at a treasured St. Louis staple. So, fans, again, Cardinals fans. I mean, the downtown St. Louis can live or die with our sporting events. Cardinals, City, Blues, Battlehawks.
You take that stuff away, what does the city have anymore?
Not much.
So you don't protect the people that are going downtown. I mean, they're not going to go down, like you said, and then all that money is going to dry up.
Yep.
Then the
And
city
what's
will die.
crazy
I mean,
is the city will die. And I think that's part of the reason I would like to see that city-county merger. I know, Duds, I think it was just us on the episode that I think about it because you disagreed. I'm pro-merger. We didn't get Nilla's take, so it was just us on the episode, which Nilla tells me that you didn't listen to the episode, so you're in trouble.
That's true.
Yeah. The other thing is that the Cardinals are actually good, surprisingly good this year.
So far.
So
we talked about that early on,
I know. And so I've got the updated stats. So right now we are 21-14 with a .600 winning percentage. We're sitting in second place to the Chicago Cubs, who, just got a game or two ahead of us. The game was canceled tonight due to rain or postponed, and pretty much the entire NL Central is doing well. Every team is above 500. So
we had a couple sweeps there, right?
Yeah, we swept the Pittsburgh Pirates. We took 2 out of 3, I think, from the Dodgers. We won last night. So it's been a really strong start from our young core. Jordan Walker is batting over 300, plus hitting a lot of home runs. Alec Burleson was just the National League Player of the Week. J.J. Weatherholt has been contributing offensively. But our playoff odds are still only around 12%. So
I think they're going to cool off.
This is... Yeah, that's what the betting odds say, I guess.
We'll see how they do. I mean, you got to get to the break, then it's a long season.
Yeah, and again, I hope that people start going downtown, that they're supporting the Cardinals, but they gotta figure out the safety stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's
all
a
right.
downer,
What else,
man?
No, we got 6 minutes or so to go here, somewhere between 6 and 9 minutes. What else do you guys want to talk about? Anything? Positive.
Going back to this, we can go to the positive next. But I was just going to say, what do they expect for downtown? I mean, they keep voting in the same people. They don't change who they vote for. The city council doesn't change. Like, you keep voting in the same people, nothing's going to change. So they're either happy with the way things are, or the votes. The votes aren't real.
You're not going to get the private investment if you can't be safe. Oh, you need these big companies that want to stay downtown. We've seen bigger companies move away. They move out to West County, Westport, or some other spot, even in the St. Louis area, but they're not downtown. When that starts happening, the jobs aren't going to be downtown. The restaurants have to leave. Then people are going to stop going downtown, and then it's just going to get more and more dangerous down there. It's a snowball effect.
So what do? Just put walls up?
No, I think you combine the city and the county. Like I said, I think we, as the county, if the city dies, we're in trouble, right?
So if you combine the city and the county, and the city's like way over budget and has a big crime problem, then you're going to be paying for the city's debt, and you're going to be policing the city's crime, right? So now you're going to be sending in outside police into the city.
To an extent, that's true. Yes, you have to be careful. You don't want to take too many resources away from where you need them. But my hope would be is that
your own areas too.
Yeah.
What his hope would be is what has it go? Goose good for the gander, right? So
correct.
If you can improve the city, then it actually helps you also as somebody in the county.
Yes, more innovation, bigger jobs,
more
better
companies.
We get more money, more.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that the merger of city and county is going to do that. I think you need to have good self-governance in the city. I think they need to vote for a person that's actually going to do things that are not.
But they don't
corrupt.
have that. They don't have good self-governance in the city. And then when people do start making money, where do they move? They move to the county. So the city isn't even getting some of the revenue because anybody that has any money moves to the county.
That's true. But they could, they could.
Yeah. So a lot of cities,
for people to move.
You could have sales tax, but nobody's going to the city because it's too dangerous or whatever. So you're not spending your money in the city.
You should look up how much revenue does the city of St. Louis have? Greg, AI that. Because I bet it's
all
a
right.
lot. Let's see what that is.
Sure.
Let's see if we can break this down real quick.
Break it down.
When was the last time you guys went downtown?
I was down there for a
question.
wedding.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay.
Chase Park
A
Plaza.
couple weeks ago. Yeah. Chase. Well,
Last
that's
year,
Clayton.
I don't know.
That's Clayton.
That's
That's
close
not
enough.
downtown. That's our second city, if you will, right? Yeah.
Mm.
Hey, where is the city hall at for the county?
Yeah, Clayton.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the city, right? That's what I thought you meant.
It's the city of Clayton. Yeah. Yes, it is. Well, you know, I go down for the soccer games. That's really my primary going downtown. But
1.41 billion for next year.
One-
okay. I don't know. You're
Big
better at
ass.
math than us.
Or 1,400.
1,400.
But that was for next
Yeah.
year, so I don't know what this year specifically. I'm not sure why it's telling me that.
Where does all that money go?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you have to look obviously at the budget. You've got police. You've got roads.
That's their
you've
revenue,
got-
Greg.
Yeah. Key revenue drivers: the city earnings tax, 36%. Property
Mhm,
tax
which
is
just passed.
14%.
Yeah.
Oh. So fees and fines, 12%. Utility tax, 10%.
What's their budget? Does it say?
Oh, you know what? That actually was the budget. 1.41 billion for next year was the budget.
Which means they're probably not making that much money.
Yeah, right.
Probably have like
They're
400,
probably in
400
deficit.
million. We're $1 billion over.
Well, you know, we're sitting on all that Rams money, and there's been a lot of talk to start using that money, because it is sitting there, and I guess it's earning money. So in a sense, like
Sure.
that's good.
We should buy
but
Bitcoin.
Well,
You should.
I don't think you're the first person to suggest that, Duds. I think they talked about that, and who knows? Maybe they did, and if they put it in some kind of investment portfolio or something like
Yeah.
that. I'm sure they're playing it a little bit more conservative. You know, so that they're guaranteed.
Wouldn't it be
whatever,
crazy if
3
like
to
a city
5%.
offer, like a little city, but I guess not too little, but like one of the smaller big cities put all their revenue into Bitcoin and then let it sit there for however many years and became the new,
Yeah.
We're
What would they
rich,
do?
bitch.
metropolis. Yeah.
I was like, what do they do with it?
Dave
though?
I don't know.
Chappelle.
I don't know. What would that
They give
what
it
would that
back to
do
the
to that
people?
city?
What, I mean, like,
Yeah. Well, there was some talk about that with the Rams
Everybody's
money.
just
They were
rolling
like,
around
you
in
give it out
Bentleys.
as a stipend. You give everybody what, $300 or something like that. I don't think that really does enough.
I guess the city would just go back
Yeah.
to the people. Hey, look, here's all this money. We're not going to keep it for ourselves. Let's give it back to
No,
you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. But you can, I mean, go plant some trees, make it nice, paint it. It's nice. We painted it.
It says
You
here
know,
that the city
right.
also finished fiscal year last year with the $18.7 million surplus.
Look at that. All right.
Well, that's good.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. But we're also, our police force is understaffed. So if you actually you can't even staff our police force. If you did, we probably don't necessarily have the surplus. But
Yeah.
I don't know. We're not going to be able to solve this tonight by any means. But maybe AI will solve it.
Yeah. Maybe
And
Elon
maybe we'll
Musk
talk
will.
about that in the next episode.
Didn't Elon Musk say, and like how many years ago this was, that he could solve what was it, world hunger, or what was it, what $5 billion or something? I think it was.
I do kind of remember that.
And it's like, okay, well then, how come he hasn't done that yet?
Didn't he? I think did he put out a thing where he said like if you
He
could
would
solve
if something. What was it?
I thought it was a CO2. He said like if you could turn CO2 back into oxygen or something like that, he would give you $1 million or something. And then they said like, well, if somebody figured out how to do that, they'd make more money. And then somebody else
show
said
'em a
like,
plant?
yeah, it's called plant a tree. Yeah. Yeah, no, but I guess he's talking at about a larger scale or something.
Yeah, faster rate. Yeah.
Right.
Not over
right.
20 years, 30, 40 years.
Right. Yeah.
I
All
guess
right.
there are certain plants.
What else? Do you guys have anything else before we wrap it up? I got the early flight tomorrow. I'm traveling.
Got Mother's Day this weekend.
Yep, Mother's Day this weekend. So I got some new outdoor furniture.
Nice.
Trying to set up. I put the outdoor TV up last weekend, and then I got this new conversation set. It got delivered today, and I didn't know how it was going to come. What is it going to be put together? Is some of it going to be put together? Is it going to be just like snapped? No, it's like the whole IKEA type setup. So the hour before we were podcasting, I was putting some of it together because I don't have a lot of time. I get back late Friday night. So I have Saturday, I guess. I got to cut the grass.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and put this furniture together.
Well, if it's not too wet to cut the grass, it's supposed to rain again on Friday, I think.
Yeah. Well, I only have Saturday morning. I guess I could do it in theory. I could cut the grass Sunday morning before people come over, but we're doing like a little brunch type thing.
Yeah.
So I think people are coming over like 11. I
Right.
don't know. But what are you guys doing? Anything? Barbecuing?
Yeah, we'll
Not
probably
doing anything
barbecue.
specifically
I'll probably
myself.
go to my sister's.
Yeah.
Don't know yet. Haven't really decided. Talk to.
Yeah, I know. I love how Bobcat Man was like, let's do something. I was like, first of all, I've been like every weekend. I'm like,
He picks
let's
Mother's
do something.
Day.
Let's do something. Yeah, and then he's like, let's do something Sunday. I'm like, Sunday's Mother's Day, dude. Like that ain't gonna fly. So
All right, see you later, babe.
Man.
Have fun with the kids.
Mm.
That's not what Mother's Day is about.
Sunday night, guys' night. Let's see how that goes over. Yeah, not very good. That's for sure. All right. Well, let's leave it there then.
All right. Till next week.
All right. Next week, hopefully. Happy Mother's Day.
You too.
This number has been disconnected.